Hello, everyone. Hi, I'm Sudipta Paul Chaudhary, VP of Marketing at OpenLM. Thank you for joining in. And we are having a few more participants for this webinar. So we are looking forward to having you. And also in a few more minutes, we will get started. So yeah, keep watching this space. Thank you so much. Small announcement here. We will have today Branislav Potosek. He is our VP of support, and Oren is not there for this session, and therefore Branislav will be, talking and taking over this session. So please feel free. You might have already interacted with Branislav, so it would be good. And please feel free to have your comments ready. And we have the chat window yeah, in advance. If you have any questions on this, please feel free to type it here. We also have a webinar survey feedback link, which I will also put it on the chat so that you can feel at your space your overall experience with the webinar. And you can also do that during the webinar or post. But yeah, I will put it right now here. And yeah, feel free, any comments that you have. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Sudipta, for the introduction. And no worries, I can already see some familiar names in the attendee list. So it's like I told you earlier today, it's many times the same people coming with it. I really appreciate it. So we will begin in about 1 minute. We'll see if there will be a short introduction, and any latecomers will be able to jump right into it. So based on my clock, it's 1 minute till till the hour. So we'll begin right on time. Okay, I think it's about time to kick it off. Yes. So hello, everybody. For all the newcomers, welcome. For everybody who I know, welcome back. It's been a while since we had one of these webinars. This year we are trying to do something different, and you can look forward to some more tailor-made discussions regarding what OpenLM is doing, but that is not the topic for today. The topic for today is backend architecture changes that we are developing and that we are trying to push forward. So my name is Branislav. I'm leading support and IT and DevOps in OpenLM, and many of you already know me. I'm actually substituting for Oren. If you weren't here from the beginning, Sudipta already explained he cannot be here with us. This is his forte, but I will try to do the best job that I can to actually explain what we are thinking and how we are thinking about it. So first, let me thank you for being with us and bearing with us with many cases.
Branislav, could you record the session?
It's already being recorded.
Okay, perfect.
It's already being recorded. Don't worry about it. So anyway, and I know many of you have interacted with me in the past or interacted with many of my colleagues regarding different user stories, enhancement to the products. And I want you to let you know that there are our developers who are working on actually accommodating this, what I like to call front-end requests. But the topic for today is a little bit different. It's the architectural changes. It's talking about where we actually see the backend of the system going, and how we would like to accommodate some of the different requirements that come to us, not just the small enhancements of the system, but the overlaying architecture. So without further ado, let's look at the table of contents. So first, I will go over a little bit of the customer requirements that we have gathered over the course of last month. What do we want to promote? What are we changing? How can you live through the new experience? What are the next stages in deployment? If there is any infrastructure costs, how is this going to affect you, and how are we going to deploy the system? And at the end, I would really appreciate to hear the feedback from you, because this is again a big step up for OpenLM and for you as our customers. So let's dive right into it. Customers' requirements. And again, I'm going to reiterate, by customer requirements, in this sense, we are not talking about an individual enhancements. Maybe you want to have a different reporting schema of OpenLM. Maybe you want to see another column. Maybe you want to manage your users better. Maybe you want to have another functionality of the agent. But these are well cataloged, but fall more into the scope of enhancement of the system. Now, these requirements that we are talking right now about, how the backend, the infrastructure, the architectural requirements, how to accommodate what is happening in the industry. And we see almost on a daily basis customers that are utilizing OpenLM further and further and further. Whereas maybe sometime at the beginning when you started with us, it was just one license server or maybe even one license manager, couple hundred, maybe 1,000 users. Now we have a lot of customers where the environments are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So we are talking about sometimes hundreds of license servers, hundreds of vendor daemons, thousands, tens of thousands of users. Recently, we have received requirements to incorporate tens of thousands of agents. And this is something that the system was not originally built with mind. It scaled out of proportion. And you can see the underlying thought behind this. Why is this happening? We live in a world, especially in today's world after Corona, with the war in Ukraine, what's happening, everything is becoming more and more expensive. The budgets in the companies are becoming more and more tight, and there is a lot more pressure to actually start optimizing, start reducing the cost. So whereas maybe at the beginning, OpenLM served you just to track the biggest key spenders that you have in your software portfolio, your Dassaults or your Autodesk or your Siemens, your Teamcenter licenses. Now we see that the C-level executives are pressuring their teams within this organization to actually look at every single applications, to be able to squeeze every single penny out of it, which in turns, creates a pressure on OpenLM, a good requirement for OpenLM to become bigger, to support more and more. And whereas when we started, it was 1, 2, 3 license managers, like your industry standard, the FlexLM or the LMX or the DSLS. Now we do support more than 60 license managers. And this all came from you, our customers, from your requirements, where you are pushed to monitor more and more and more applications. Now, this creates an environment for OpenLM when in the beginning we were maybe tracking hundreds or thousands of sessions. Now we have deployments within some customers' environments where it's millions of sessions per day. And again, like I said, the system was not really originally built with this in mind. This amount of data is really, really huge. Another requirement that we see more often than not is security. And security is, again, a buzzword of today's IT day and age, where everything needs to be secure, whether we are looking at internal security, external security, we are looking at handling personal identifiable information. We are looking at data privacy. Some locations in the world, like the European Union with the GDPR restrictions, are becoming more and more strict. So this is something that we need to handle, and we hear it on a daily basis, and we try to incorporate it. We already did some changes over the course of last year, where we implemented the new standalone product which goes with OpenLM, which is the OpenLM identity, which allows you to authenticate and authorize the different components of the OpenLM system. We enabled to add SSL certificates into the system, not just to see and display the OpenLM front end through an HTTPS connection, but to also ensure that all the components of the system are connected, are authorized with industry standard authentication and authorization protocols, and the traffic between them is encrypted. We see another rise in connectivity when it comes to synchronizing directories, whereas in the past it was maybe single-digit customers who tried to utilize our Active Directory integration. Now it's becoming more and more common, and all these things together create a very, very complex system that becomes very hard to maintain, and is not as good with the performance as we would like. Last but not least is the split between the on-premise version of OpenLM and the cloud version of OpenLM. We really do believe in the cloud, and we know that many of our customers are being pushed with something what is being called the cloud-first policy. And even though we don't anticipate that this is going to happen overnight, we do see that a lot of our customers will maybe want to switch from the on-premise on cloud, but rest assured, we do plan to support both of these versions equally. And whenever we release something, we want to make sure that both of versions of the OpenLM actually get this. So where does this lead? Where do we go? What do we want to promote? Now, right now, there is a certain peak where OpenLM server, the OpenLM system, what can it support? How many users, how many vendor daemons, how many agents, how many brokers? This is something that we would like to change. We want to provide unlimited scalability of the system, which is something right now that is very hard to achieve. We also would like to see less dependency between the individual components. Right now, a lot of what OpenLM provides is packed into the OpenLM, let's go the OpenLM server component. And whenever something fails there, it's highly likely that the whole system fails and it becomes a problem because you cannot work, you cannot get what OpenLM is supposed to give you. We heard you loud and clear, and we also see this internally, and it's not just coming from you, our customers. We also hear it from resellers. OpenLM has become an enterprise-wide system. It's integrated into the enterprise, and upgrading and maintaining it has become a big hurdle, a big problem. We know that there are a lot of issues when it comes to upgrading the system. So that's another thing that we would like to go ahead and resolve. And with these goes hand in hand, like I said, better performance, better functionality, and overall less internal conflict between what is happening on the back end, what you don't see, what you only see when the system stops working, or a key component of the system is giving you troubles and is not delivering what it's supposed to be. So we would like to get to a point where the system is easier to maintain and there are not as many bugs as we see right now. So what are we changing? And this is a small architectural slide, and there are probably better people in OpenLM that could explain this, but I will just do the high level. The way we see this happening is instead of one big system, we see this as multiple individual components that are connected through a service bus, which is, in our case, will be Apache Kafka, and it's implemented by distributed event streaming technology. The individual components are connecting using queues. They communicate to each other through this service bus, but are to a very certain extent independent, but at the same time, on the front end, you will be able to see everything that you have seen up until now. So ideally, the end user doesn't even notice that any change was done on the back end, apart from maybe the system being a lot faster and a lot more smoother to operate. Now, this is very common with many of the software vendors today. For example, I can give you one example. Siemens is trying to do this with Teamcenter. If you are familiar with Teamcenter and their active workspace component, they are doing exactly the same thing, splitting the system into smaller services and being able to deliver them as individual pieces to improve the scalability, improve the performance, and make sure that if one component breaks, it's not the end of the world because the rest of the system is still running. One other issue that we can hear it from our customers and we see it ourselves is the reliance on the relational database that OpenLM has right now and has been having for the past 12, 13 years. So right now we do use relational database. You have it on your premises installed. We have it on our cloud as well, whether it's MySQL or it's MS SQL or it's our recent addition, MariaDB. The system is, again, too big for this database. There are so many transactions, so many sessions, so many data is being pushed into this database, and the data is interconnected on the back end, that it becomes a problem. And in many cases, it starts slowing down the system. And I know maybe some of our smaller customers don't see this yet, but I can tell you some of the bigger customers see when they are trying to run a license activity report, and you see hundreds, thousands, maybe millions of sessions. The system becomes slow. Sometimes it cannot even handle the load, and that's not even talking about actually trying to export the data. Now, we do have a solution for this as well. We want to switch from relational database to a document-based database. Want to use one of the up-and-coming industry standards in this field, which is called MongoDB. This database is very fast, is reliable. Every component after our switch would have its own database, so it wouldn't be just one big database housing everything. It's easier to update. Basically, the structure is like a document. It's a JSON inside the database, and the deployment would be the same for on cloud and on premise. Of course, on cloud we are taking care of this switch on the backend. So for our cloud customers, you won't even notice that something is being changed. But for the on-premise customers, there would be a different method of delivering OpenLM as a system compared to what it is now. So again, a little bit of a high-level explanation of what the thought process is. What we call it internally is breaking the monolith. Right now, as I said, the system, it's one big system. Even though we split some components already, for the purpose of this discussion, let's still call it one big system, the OpenLM server, which houses almost everything. It houses all the core functionality. Now, the idea is to take this system and split it into smaller individual components, like I said, that are integrated, that are connected to each other, but ultimately they are not dependent on each other. So there are multiple advantages. One of the biggest advantage, and even though on my list, the agent handling, as you can see here, is at the complete bottom, I'm gonna use it as a business case for this. I mentioned that recently we had gotten requests to accommodate tens of thousands of agents at the same time. Now, the OpenLM server was not built with this kind of load in mind, and it could create problems. Now, once we manage to split the agent to be a separate service, and we can actually run multiple instances of the same service, the agents will basically, even if there is 50,000 of the agents, they will connect to the service will be handling the load and only connecting to the OpenLM server, which still remains the core component, as needed. Now, with the technical solution, which I'm going to showcase you in a minute, we can actually ensure that you can scale the individual service from the hardware perspective almost indefinitely. You know, you can just keep adding server by server and the scaling the computing power for the service so it can handle almost unlimited load. Now, for the components list, we did the directory synchronization. This was done more than a year ago. As you know, those customers, you guys have been with us for long enough that the directory synchronization was originally part of the OpenLM server, like everything else. Now it's been a separate service with a separate installer. The second one that we did is a notification service, which we already can distribute. We are working on separating the users and groups management. And like I said, the best example is the agent handling. We will have a separate agent service that is handling everything that is related to the agent. And it's not part of the OpenLM server core component, which will allow us to actually be able to handle any kind of load that we can imagine. So now let's talk a little bit about installing the system. So what is the current status? So the current status, again, you probably know this because you went through the process. You pick the operating system of your choice, whether it's Windows, Unix, or Linux. You take the MSI or the RPM or the Debian installers, you install the package, or you can just do the targz, unpack the system and run it. This creates a lot of hurdles. Like I mentioned earlier, OpenLM is no longer just a single system. You know, it's multiple systems connected to each other. The core system, the server, contains so many different components that require different dependencies. So whether you are looking at the server and you need all the prerequisites that need to be there on your operating system. So for its PowerShell, it's the .NET Core, it's the .NET Core SDK. For OpenLM Broker, you're looking at having the OpenJDK or any other Java environment. There is a lot of requirement just for the operating system for OpenLM to even be able to install. And that is not talking actually about what's happening next when the post-install script is running and it's creating what needs to be created in the database. The configuration is overall way too complicated. And we know that many of our customers, especially those small and medium customers who may not necessarily have enough technical resources available, they have a problem with actually getting the system running, which is, again, of course, a big problem for us as well. And there goes a lot of time investment. Again, whether it's from the customer side or it's from OpenLM side, these are resources that we need to spend, and we would like to somehow circumvent the system. The second biggest problem that we have is the complexity of the upgrades. Right now, again, you have already multiple components. These components, they have their own databases, and the upgrade script can create a lot of issues when you're running it. It's something that we would like to move away from. So on one hand, you know, we are increasing the complexity of the system by splitting it into more and more components. But on the other hand, we also want to give you a delivery that would make it easier from you to set it up and for us to help you set it up. So what is the solution? What is the proposed solution? The proposed solution is Dockerization of the individual components. Now, I will do a very high level of overview of what Docker is for anybody in the audience who doesn't know. And please, if you could mark this, because this is something that we would really like to hear as feedback, is whether you use Docker in your organization. And we have already spoken, maybe to even somebody who is with me on the call right now, and we know that this is a common practice, it's a common system that is being used by the organization. But if you are not using it, we would like to hear about it and know about it. So what is a Docker? Docker is a simple container. It contains both the underlying operating system and the application in it, and just the application, no data. The Docker is configured with a configuration file. When we are talking about a system where you don't really require yet the scalability of multiple machines together, when we are talking about running these Dockers on the same machine, we can actually deliver it pre-configured to you. Now you can see on the right side, there is this nice Docker image, and it basically is a great analogy of what Docker delivers. I mean, imagine a cargo ship that, you know, goes through the Atlantic Ocean and delivers the load. Now, it's common practice that you don't just load the cargo randomly on the ship, but you put it into different containers based on a certain predefined pattern. So, you know, maybe it's a container full of cars coming from the same manufacturer, or maybe it's a container full of that same type of trade goods that, you know, somebody is selling on the other side of the world. This is exactly the same principle. We want to put individual containers with the different components of OpenLM and enable you to put it on a single server and just with a simple configuration file, kick it off and run it. And if you get to a point where your solution actually needs to be scaled, you can do that just by adding hardware. Now, one thing that I've spoken about that we know has become a lot more complicated as time went by with OpenLM was upgrading. Now, upgrading with Docker is basically very straightforward. You just get the container from OpenLM, you put it in, you start it with a command, and it's done. This also gives us and you as well a big advantage when it comes to upgrading the individual components. Now, imagine a situation right now where we detect a problem with the system, and it's part of the system. It's still packed in the one big monolith of the OpenLM server. So maybe there is a problem with the notification. Maybe there is a problem with the alerting system. Maybe there is a problem with the management of users and groups. Maybe there is a problem with managing the options files. Now, for us to be able to go create a fix and then implement the fix, we actually need to go ahead and recompile and release a new version of the whole OpenLM system, which means then again, you as the customer need to go and upgrade the whole OpenLM system. Again, also, if something breaks, if it breaks, it's highly likely that it actually affects the functionality of the whole system. Now, with this splitting the monolith into the different smaller services, it gives us the power to actually, when we find out the problem with an individual service, like the alerts are not working, there is a bug with a trigger for the alerts or with a threshold for the alerts, we can go ahead, you know, our developers can actually create a fix, and we can then distribute this district just for that particular small service, instead of having to create a new version of the whole system. And on your end, it's very easy to just replacing the updated component. So what will be the new customer experience? And this is mainly for the small medium systems. Please take this as a disclaimer. When I say small and medium systems, when we say small and medium system, we mean basically something that covers most of our customers. Even if you are an enterprise, from what we know, we don't really have two as big implementations that would require putting multiple machines together, but we know that some of our customers are actually on the road to get there. So at the beginning, a little bit of a stronger hardware would be recommended, because we are actually going to a solution where with the Dockerization, you don't, in the future, you won't even need an external database server. Like everything will be running on the same machine. The system would be distributed as multiple Docker files to start with. Everything would be pre-configured between these individual components, so they can run together as the OpenLM service and deliver what you were used to. Now, minimal local configuration would be required, and at the beginning, what would be included? So we still have the server. As we keep splitting the components from the server, there will be more Docker files to come. We have the directory synchronization. We can have the report scheduler. We have the new database, the new document-based database, MongoDB, as a separate Docker file. We have the bus, the bus service bus that is connecting all these components together, again, as a separate Docker file. Right now, this does not mean any change to the relational database that you're using. You know, the data will still be there because this is an ongoing process. For now, we only split the notification service from the main OpenLM server monolith. And the configuration of the external services like identity and directory still remains the same through the front end, but will change over time. And then you basically just boot the system with a single command. For the bigger implementations, like I said, we have some customers where, you know, they are heading this way. Again, I'm going to use the use case, the example of trying to run 30,000 agents with OpenLM. Now, in a case of implementation like this, it's highly likely that the separate agent service would actually require more computing power than a single server can deliver. Now, it's very easy with Kubernetes, which is an automatic management system for Dockers, where you can go ahead and distribute the load that is being handled by single server to multiple machines. So what are the next steps? Where do we want to go from here? Because this was where we are right now. So we want to, as I said already, separate more and more components from the monolith, from the OpenLM server, and slowly but steadily start moving the data for these components from the relational database that you are using right now, from the MySQL or MS SQL, into the MongoDB databases that come with the Docker containers. This allows us, as was already said, better scalability, better performance, less dependency between the components. So even if one component breaks, you know, the rest of the system is still functioning correctly, and we can just go ahead and update that particular component. Overall, this, even though it looks like a big change at the beginning, it will result in a much easier maintenance and deployment of the system. Infrastructure costs, important question, and I would assume that this will come up, so that's why we have it in here on the slide. Every component with this new system, whether it's MongoDB, whether it's Kafka, whether it's the Docker itself, it's not. These are open source components, and even for enterprise-wide use, they don't come with any additional cost. So, where do we see the deployment coming from now on in the future? So for cloud, for the cloud customers, not much is actually changing because the cloud is already being supported with minimal installation required on premises. So what is going to remain the same is the installation of the brokers. You still need to install the brokers on the license server so they can provide data to OpenLM. You still need to install the agents if you are using the agent solution, because again, the agents go on the end user workstations and are required for the solution to work. There is still the directory synchronization agent, which this one needs to be, installed on the premises so it can actually take the data from Active Directory and sync it. And the end user service. Now, this one, while you still need it on premise for our cloud solution, it provides the overlay for the OpenLM agent. We are working hard to remove this requirement for it to be on-prem and just be able to function completely on cloud. For the on-premise self-managed installations, we are working on preparing comprehensive guides that would allow anybody who is familiar with Docker to just take the containers and implement them easily and start them with a simple command. If such an expertise is lacking from your organization, we will of course be there to assist you. Small disclaimer here, or small footnote, is when I mentioned security at the beginning, we are still working to get the ISO and SOC 2 certifications. The target is still the third quarter of this year. So this should also alleviate the pressure that our customers and our prospects have when it comes to actually getting OpenLM approved by the IT security department. That's basically all there is from me. I would be really happy to hear your questions and hopefully be able to provide answers, or just listen to any feedback that you may have, because this is a significant change in direction. And like I said, when I opened up the Docker slide, I would really like to hear, do you use Docker in your organization? Is this something that is common, etc. So thank you very much for listening. And again, thank you for being with us and bearing with us. So Dipta, I am allowing everybody to talk now.
Sure.
Let's see.
Thank you so much, everyone. So yes, this is your time. Please be as vocal as possible, and yeah, bring out all the questions, comments, concerns that you have. Yes, I already see a few of the feedback that is coming in from all of you. Thank you. I would also say that please use that particular feedback form that we have here. You can, if you think that there are few things that you want to communicate, we are eager to listen. And please utilize this time. Yeah, it's over to you.